crime, cases, and backing the blue. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. I'm Kevin Schroeder, your host. I'm here with my co-host, the Captain.
The Captain welcomes everyone to WABC session and YouTube viewers. We have a very interesting guest today. He happens to be a friend of ours, and he's quite a talented guy.
Thanks. Dave Giordano, Community Affairs Specialist, I like to refer to myself as. Came on with Kevin Schroeder, the same graduating class, and I left a little bit before Kevin, and now we're doing our own thing. I did most of my time in Manhattan North. It was great. Community loved me. I loved the community. Solving community issues was backseat to wine pairing with your next dinner course. So it was a good career. I had a great time. And subsequent to the career, hanging out with Captain Ed and Kevin has been, it's been very rewarding, to say the least.
So Dave Giordano, everyone, our guest today.
Dave Giordano.
Dave, so you in community policing? Community affairs?
Yes.
So to this day, I'm still waiting to get into the Midtown North Community Affairs. I can't
you know what? Steve Jocko had that thing locked up for
he did. He did a great job at it, too.
You had absolutely no chance of getting into there.
Ever since I was a rookie in Midtown North, I said, that's the job I want.
And I took a different approach, Kevin. I was a street guy. I did my SNU, my anti-crime, my conditions unit, some in the Bronx, some in Manhattan North. And I always looked at community affairs. I said, boy, these screwballs, they don't do anything all day. I was going out, making collars, making overtime. Got into community affairs. I was a little reluctant, but I got in. Then, it's like a week later, I was having dinner at Gracie Mansion. I said, you know what, this isn't a bad,
Not bad.
This isn't a bad gig.
So Central Park Community Affairs, you were in, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, did you get the shield out of it?
Oh, no.
You didn't? Okay. I mean, that doesn't matter anyway.
No.
But
they weren't giving out shields like they do today. I mean, it seems like everyone in community affairs has a shield. I go around the city.
End grade.
I go around the city and I see these guys with 3-5 years on the job. They all have shields. They're in community affairs. Was never like that when I was on a job, and it certainly wasn't like that when I was young on the job. No one in community affairs had a shield. Right. Not in the Bronx, anyway.
Yeah.
For purposes of our non-police listeners and viewers, he's referring to the shield. What he's referring to is the detective's badge, which is a separate and distinct badge from the
Detective
uniform.
Specialist badge.
Right.
Specialist, yeah.
So that's why it's called the shield in the department.
Yep.
Brings more money and a little more prestige.
A little bit more.
So now, Central Park, I mean, besides the squirrels and the horse carriages, what else? Crime. There's crime in Central Park.
Yeah, well, we had a drug problem one time.
Really?
Lower half on the Midtown North border. Thank you.
No way. You meant Manhattan North there.
No, it's right at 50. You know what? They used to deal right inside 59th Street at 7th Avenue. 6th Avenue. And they'd go across the street into Midtown North, and their stashes were kept like on 58th Street. We'd follow them over. I made as many collars in Midtown North as you did, and dragged them back over the line into Central Park.
Okay. Yeah. We didn't take much from Central Park because we had enough in Midtown North.
I remember. I remember.
Wow, interesting. Mm-hmm. But Central Park, I mean, it's people don't realize it's like almost like a little city. There's so much that goes on.
Yeah, I also did they gave me the hat of crime prevention officer as well. So I was doing SNU, anti-crime, and they gave me
So SNU is when you made those collars.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
I was going to say, because I know when you were community affairs, you're probably wine and dining somewhere,
So I did the SNU, the anti-crime, and they gave me they tasked me with crime prevention too, right? Because they needed someone to go down to a meeting every month or whatever it was. They needed the activity from a crime prevention aspect, which I did. And where was I going with this? So I wore many hats.
So just to rewind, so when you were a cop in the Bronx, that's where you started out. So what issue did you do when you came out of police academy?
No,
where did you do your training?
It's crazy, Kevin. I don't know how it happened. I must have pissed somebody off. My NSU was, I turned out of the 113. So I think it was NSU 18 or 17.
Queens, okay.
Yeah. It was hairy. I mean, we were stuck. We covered the 103, the 105, the 113, 106. We were stuck on foot posts in the 103 like all the time. Very rare that you got a car tour. When you did, we kind of fell into the 105, crossed the border, get something to eat, come back, into Nassau County. But we walked the same foot post that Eddie Byrne was killed on.
Jamaica,
we were
right?
down
Jamaica,
at South
Queens,
Road, Jamaica Avenue. Horrible back then. It was crack throughout the whole precinct, 103. And then somehow, I don't know how it happened, after NSU, I got assigned to the South Bronx. It was more of the same. Crack, DOAs, shootouts, drugs everywhere. And I went through that for about 6 years until I got into Manhattan North. Yeah.
Wow. So it was nice to now, how'd you wind up in Central Park?
Well, we have our peaks and valleys in our careers.
Yeah, sure.
I had a few valleys that, brought me there. But once I got there, the peaks were very, very high, and we stayed at a peak for a long time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, when you got to, what year did you get to Central Park?
Oh, boy. And, it's got to be 91. I would think it was 91. Yeah.
91.
Yeah.
And who was the CO at the time? Commanding officer.
Boy, a cranky old Italian guy who could care less that I was Italian. Montanino, Captain Montanino.
Okay, now how many police officers were assigned to the Central Park precinct at that time?
At that time, funny you should ask, that was just a few years after the Central Park jogger incident. When the Central Park jogger was brutally raped and sodomized, and the precinct only had 60 cops assigned. By the time I got there, the numbers were boosted up to like 100. There were 100 cops. I don't know what the numbers are today, but we had a good amount of cops when I got there. Subsequent to me getting there, the Manhattan North Scooter Task Force picked up an office in the precinct. So now you had another 1 lieutenant, 3 sergeants, and 16 or 17 cops starting out of Central Park and going throughout the borough of Manhattan North. But the point is, they were in the park, getting to their destination. So it was like an omnipresence.
Right.
It looked like we had more than we really did.
Right.
Yeah.
They just turned out of Central Park.
Yeah.
Captain?
Well, and then you had the summer detail. What was the increase in?
Yeah, the
personnel?
summer detail brought in, maybe 10 people on a day tour and 10 on a 4 to 12. But that was only for a few months. A couple of them would beg to stay. We have a couple that stayed and went on to bigger and better things. Sergeant Capper, who you all know, was my ICO.
Rory Capper.
Rory was my ICO, and we actually were on dividing lines precincts. I was in a 4-0, he was in a 4-1, back in mid-'80s. So I know him from jobs that would bleed over to the 4-1, or the 4-1 bleeding over to the 4-0, or court, central booking. That's how I kind of knew him. And then lo and behold, he becomes my ICO.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are good friends today.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You guys are always together. When I see Dave, where's Rory? When I see Rory, where's Dave?
Well, and I have the same thoughts when I see Ed. I said, Kevin's got to be just 3 steps behind.
Exactly.
Why don't you explain to the listeners what ICO means? They don't, the non-police listeners.
So to the non-police listeners is what's called an ICO at every command, Integrity Control Officer. Actually, every detail has an ICO, right, Kevin? I mean,
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
every precinct, every detail
has an
uniform detail,
Integrity Control
non-uniform.
Officer. They do what integrity control officers do. Check your trunk during Christmas season, right?
Yeah.
They still do that?
I don't know.
That goes back to my time.
Look at your memo books.
Yeah.
My handwriting was atrocious. They took one look at it, just signed off on it, gave it back to me. But yeah, it was a greed career. It was a great career. And actually, post-career was actually equally as great. I mean, Kevin knows, Ed knows, I've been involved in a lot of interesting work with different lawyers. I did some big cases at the Eastern District. I had a big state case up in Westchester County, a cop that was allegedly killed what we call migrant. This was years ago. So I was active in that as well.
So you're doing private investigations now, basically.
When I was working with the attorneys in like a litigation support role. But then, I worked, I met that ICE agent. It was great meeting him because I did that security clearance review for years. I still have my security clearance. So I do that occasionally as well. You know, everyone that has a security clearance needs to go through this 5-year round robin. So it's a reinvestigation case. And then you get new cases, too, where people are just coming into the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, Ed, and, they need a round robin done. So that's kind of what I do that as well. I've done some other things that I really can't talk about,
Right.
privately, publicly. So, yeah.
This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. Let's get real close to hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Maximized. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
Central Park, when you were there, they have a detective squad?
Yeah, they threw me into the squad. They were down to 2 or 3 detectives, which was big for Central Park, because I think they only had 7 or 8. They were trying to import another detective, so they threw me in there for a couple of weeks. I got stuck on the, what do they call it when you do the midnights?
Night watch.
I did the night watch with funniest detective you ever want to meet. I don't know if you knew. Did you know Tommy Fry?
Yes.
Tommy.
Yes.
I was with Tommy. Great guy. A lot of fun. That was an interesting couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah, Night Watch was interesting. When I got first assigned to the Detective Bureau in 1997,
yeah,
they assigned us a week of Night Watch. It may have been 2 weeks, definitely a week.
Yeah.
And it was pretty interesting. Those guys, they're pretty sharp guys. They it's interesting work that they do. And all old times, guys with time on. There's one guy, Chris, you might remind me of the guy from the Mod Squad with the big sunglasses.
Right.
Bushy hair. Chris, Greek guy. Can't think of Chris's last name. He was
Kevin,
great.
because you would think, well, Night Watch, boy, you got to be jumping from the 3-0 to the 3-3, shooting, stabbings, robberies, right? It just so happens that, like, the couple of weeks I was doing it, nothing happened in the borough. So it was just a lot of hanging out.
Yeah.
And closing your eyes and trying to get some Z's.
Then, like, 10 to 7, the bell rings, like, 10 to 7? Come on, really? But the best part too about it is that they initiate the initial investigation, which they do a great job on. And unless there's a call to be made right away, then they pass it off to the catching detectives coming in that morning. And I know when I used to do a day tour, I'd be going into the squad, say on a Saturday morning or a Friday morning, and it's 7:30 in the morning and the lights are on already. You walk in the night watches day, you're like, oh, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
Who's up next? Who's catching this?
Yeah. You don't even get a chance to warm up your coffee, and you got this folder in your lap.
Yeah, right. That's the bad part about it. The good part about it is, they initiated started the investigation. They know what they're doing, so I'm sure got a head start. But I'm sorry, Cap, just to talk about the squads.
Yep.
What's a shame is the squads today are overwhelmed, overworked. I mean, there's not enough manpower. Because obviously, white shields will come from patrol. There's not enough guys on patrol, guys and girls. And in the squads, say Midtown North Squad who had 25 guys, they're down to maybe 18, probably lose another 5 in January. Say the 9th Squad or the 5th Squad, had 15 guys, they're down to maybe 7. They're losing maybe 3 more come January with retirement. And the patrol's told to leave everything open to the detective squad. Everything. And so they're catching 500 cases, can't close cases. Why'd you close this? Why'd you close that? The manpower's not there. On top of that, on the days off, they're being sent to a uniform detail.
Yeah.
So your 2 RDOs, no, you got maybe 1 RDO, maybe no RDOs because you're doing overtime. Now, I love overtime. However, these kids, they're working 7 days a week and they don't have a break. Yeah. And then you're a Manhattan detective and they send you to a uniform detail in the Bronx. Yeah. You're a Bronx detective and you send you to a uniform detail in Brooklyn. Yeah. Really? There's not enough uniform details in the same borough?
Yeah.
So it's a shame what's going on with the Detective Bureau right now.
No, Kevin, it just seems, and Ed, you could talk about this too, it just seems what's up is down, what's right is wrong. The police department is in such disarray. I don't think they even realize that they're sending detectives to the Bronx or Bronx detectives to Manhattan.
Probably not.
I don't know if Jessica Tisch has the ability to see through all of this or if she's just a numbers girl that's going to look at CompStat numbers and that's it. She doesn't have, I don't think she has that grasp of looking at a detective from Midtown North walking a footpost on Fordham Road or vice versa. Detective from the 4-6 being sent down to Midtown. I don't know if she's got the ability to do that. I guess they'll leave it up to Chief Madry, right, or this other Kaz Daughtry to guide her into.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about Tisch, who's the new police commissioner, Captain. I mean, what is your thoughts on Tisch being the new police commissioner?
That's a good one. Well, the rumor is that she got the job because of the political influence of her family. If that's the case, that's not too good. If she has experience that she learned with her 12 years in a staff position in the department, she may be able to get things done. I guess she deserves a chance, but I would think that it takes at least 2 years for a non-member of the department, an outsider, to get a grasp on the job. I mean, it's ever since transit came in and housing came in, the job has become even more complicated.
Well, like Lee Brown came from Houston. What years, Kevin, was he our PC?
Out of town Brown?
Yeah.
Well, that was 90s. On the Dinkins, right? So that was like 90.
I don't think he ever grasped.
91, 92, 93.
I don't think he ever grasped.
He was over his head.
He was over his head. I don't think he ever grasped
89, 90.
The entirety of how this job functions. I don't know anything about Houston, but I'm sure we are heads and tails way beyond what Houston does.
I think we have enough talent within the NYPD that we shouldn't have to bring someone from the outside.
Yes.
That's just my opinion.
Getting back to Central Park, we have a mutual friend, Rafael Castellanos, that runs a private ambulance corps. Could you talk about that ambulance group and what he does?
I don't know how much I could tell you about Rafael's, the operations of his Central Park Medical Unit, other than it's an all-volunteer group. But their volunteers are all off-duty doctors or medical students. I think he has, from what I recall, he has about 3 ambulances. They primarily work during the day in the 4 to 12s. I don't think they do overnights. They're at all the big events. Any big event, you're going to see a Central Park medical unit at. I just haven't really kept up on the numbers now, how many ambulances they have or how many personnel they have. But it's a great organization. I've known Raphael, I guess 25 years maybe. And he's dedicated his life to doing this, and he's just done a hell of a job. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we had someone fall and injure themselves in a part of the park where the FDNY dispatcher would not know how to, get the ambulance there, So his people know every inch of the park. The statue, the Balto statue, how would you tell a FDNY dispatcher, ambulance, someone's injured at the Balto statue? They wouldn't know how to get there. Raphael's people were on the same police radio frequency as us. They hear the injury at the Balto statue. I think that's what it's called, the dog that near the zoo. And they go right there. There's no ambiguity. They know where all the landmarks are. The FDNY ambulances don't. So you get a faster response out of the Central Park Medical Unit. Yeah.
Well, I think the public ought to know that they have such a unit. I think it's kind of unique. I never heard of any other park having its own ambulance corps.
Well, I think
in the city.
I think the public in large part knows. I mean, the regulars in Central Park see this blue and white Central Park Medical Unit driving by all the time, and they know. They see it there regularly, going up and down the east and west drives and the cross drives as well. And listen, Raphael gets, he gets donations to keep this thing rolling. So he's had a lot of influential people in his ambulance in the past who, in turn, made donations.
Showed their gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great service.
Well, actually, Kevin and I were talking prior to the start of this. I'm talking about the Central Park Medical Unit on the East Drive and the West Drives of Central Park. There was a time where those park drives were open to traffic. And slowly but surely, these groups in New York, these anti-car groups, they want to do away with traffic. They started in Central Park. They were chipping away. One year they closed the 110th Street entrance to Central Park. A few years later, they closed the 106th Street entrance to Central Park. They reduced the hours that cars could be in Central Park, right? So this was over a period of a couple of decades where they wanted to get the cars out of Central Park altogether. Okay? And they kept pushing, and lo and behold, there's no more traffic in Central Park, right? So where's all that traffic go that was going through the park? It's on Fifth Avenue. It's on Central Park West. It's becoming congested, right, on the avenues and on the park drives. So, I'm getting to a point where we're going to this congestion pricing. This is just another chip away at getting cars out of Manhattan altogether. Right. This has been the desire of this group, Transportation Alternatives, for years. They've been pushing. They now have a seat at the table with the mayor's office, and I mean it's going to be to the point where you can't move anywhere in the city anymore with this congestion pricing, bike lanes, bus lanes, muni meters, restaurants that are putting out their sheds along the roads. It's just there's nowhere to move anymore.
No, everyone will be riding around in scooters.
We're going to ride around in circles. Yeah.
And I guess precinct commands in Manhattan North are going to become very desirable. for the cops because they don't have
Yeah,
to.
well,
it's
you know,
above
like
59th
Kevin
Street.
and I spoke about that. What cop, fireman, or teacher or sanitation worker is going to want to go below 60th Street to go to work? $9 a day.
Exactly.
$9 for now. That's going to go up in a couple of years.
Right.
So,
No one will want to work in Manhattan South. Everything below, you know.
correct.
Isn't it 59th? Was it 60th? I think it's 59th
Manhattan
Street.
South, 59th Street.
It's
Below
59th.
59th Street. Who's going to work?
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't know why why did they promote it as 60th Street, everything south of 60th Street, when really 59th Street's our dividing line, right, between
Right.
Manhattan North, Manhattan South.
As far as the police department.
Yeah, as far as the police
Manhattan North,
department.
Manhattan South.
Yeah,
Below 59th Street, above 59th Street.
yeah. I don't see anything good coming out of this. I see a lot of angry people and a lot of people with less money in their pocket. And such as you, when I go down to pick you up,
That's right. Oh,
you're gonna have to move back north on the other
that's
side
right.
of 59th Street.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, unless they come up with some type of a, discount for, essential workers or
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
but even inactive, I mean, even like, say, an unmarked police car or a fire truck
Mm-hmm.
going south to 59th Street, they'll probably get billed and the city will have to pay.
Yeah.
You know, they'll still get billed.
Right.
You know, I mean, the cop or the fireman driving the rig won't have to pay it. But
And you got to hope that cop that's going south has a legitimate reason for going south, right?
yeah,
Or the ICO is going to call him in and
right.
say, "What? Hey, what are you doing below
Probably call
59th?"
them in anyway and say, what were you doing? Well, I was
Yeah.
transporting a prisoner. Or I was going to 1PP or as per whatever. They'll still be questioned and they'll have an answer for it. But at the end of the day, again, that particular cop or fireman won't be charged the $9, but the city will pay it because that's what they do. Mm-hmm. It's like when we come over, say an unmarked car or radio car comes through Midtown Tunnel, right? The city gets charged,
Yeah.
So, but crazy. Cap?
Well, as far as congestion pricing, I think there's many unforeseen problems that are going to pop up because you don't really know until it goes into effect.
Well, there's many unforeseen, but there's many that can be seen too. I mean, we know what's going to happen. Everything north of 60th Street is going to become congested with people driving in circles, looking for a way to bury their car somewhere so they don't have to go below 59th Street.
Well, everyone's going to take anyone who has to be in Lower Manhattan will take public transportation, I'm sure. But that will probably go up too because of congestion pricing as well.
Yeah. But public transportation is so unreliable, Kevin.
Oh yeah.
So I don't see it being an option. Public
It's not the answer, but
Yeah.
it's an alternative.
Yeah, but that's not supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is the money from congestion pricing is supposed to go into the MTA.
Yeah,
So
good
the
luck.
fares, the fares
The
shouldn't
New
go
York
up.
lottery
In theory.
money was supposed to be going to schools.
Every,
That's what I know.
every time you come over to GW Bridge, you pay $15, and where's that money going? It's supposed to be for repairs. I mean, really, unbelievable. But then
It's
the
the
beat
world
goes on.
It's the world we live in. The city's becoming unmanageable, and it's it was horrible under De Blasio, and it got compounded over the last 3 years. It's nothing got fixed. Everything was made worse.
Well, next year's will be a new mayor's race for New
That's
York
because
City.
we have a
and,
mayor that doesn't know what he's doing.
I mean, everyone around him is
He's going to jail.
going to jail or indicted or waiting trial. Or a lot of those people we know, right? I mean, a couple of them I drove when they were bosses on our job. So it's
should be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Getting back to the police department,
yes.
what's your opinion of the state of affairs?
Cap, you don't want to hear my opinion.
Yes, I do.
It's and I look back at what's going on, and I look in disbelief. I say, what the hell happened? I mean, we had such a good job where people were tight, cops were tight. Detective squads were rolling along and doing what they were doing, and it just seems like everything was working in sync at one time. And along came, new administration, and everything just is no longer in sync. It's out of sync. It's out of whack. I mean, Kevin and I still know a few of the people that we came on with that are still on the job, super people. But yeah, I got to give you an example, Ed. Years ago, Kevin, I don't know if you know this, I had a chance where I was driving Mayor Dinkins once he was retired, and the last 6 years of his life, I was with him twice a week, sometimes one time a week. I would drive him to events, and we had a great time. I loved that man like I loved my own father. He gave me some great tips on life experience that I'll bring with me for the rest of my life. But I lost track again.
Ed was talking about the police department.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Today.
So I'm driving Dinkins. I pull up to we went somewhere in Brooklyn. So I bury the car. He's going into his event. I'm walking around the streets. There's a police detail out there. I said to one of the young cops, I said, do you mind if I leave this car over here? That this is Mayor Dinkins' car. And he said to me, he goes, who? I said, Mayor Dinkins. He was, a mayor here in New York. Now, this cop had to have 5 or 7 years on the job. And I said, he was the first African-American mayor we had. He goes, oh, no, I think I heard of that guy. I said, yeah. He goes, leave the car there. I said, well, thanks a lot. I'll send the mayor your regards.
Yeah.
Before we wind this up, I just want to say that what really gets to me is the disparate uniforms. Everybody wears a different uniform, like nobody cares.
Yeah,
that's a sign of breakdown.
It's a smorgasbord.
Well, I mean, now you could have tattoos and you could have beards and different today.
My hair right now is touching my collar. I'm unshaven. I'm waiting, before I leave here for Captain Ed to write me a CD. Yeah. You remember when they used to put a credit card to your face to see if you were shaved or not, and your hair, they would look, it's touching your collar. Yeah, none of that goes.
No, especially
anymore.
in a police academy. Now they don't even do that.
Now it's a free for all.
Yeah.
What do you want to wear today? How about a golf shirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to wind this down.
Let's wind it down, Ed.
Wind it down. Well, thank you for being here. It was great.
Thank you for having me, Ed. It's been such an eye-opening experience being here at WABC Studios. It's a wonderful place. I hope I'm invited back.
Yeah, we'll invite Raphael too.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to be here with Raphael.
That's what I mean.
We have a lot of good stories to tell, primarily that revolve around Hong Kong.
So today I'd like to thank Dave Giordano,
Community Affairs
Specialist, Central Park. Great guy, great times. It's great to have you on the show. Yeah. Can't wait to after the show and have a cigar and a scotch. Sounds good, as we always do. But I'd like to thank everyone for listening today. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to Cop Talk. And you could also follow us on X, which is at Cop Talk WABC. That's at Cop Talk WABC. Until next time, I'd like to say God bless you, God bless America, and God bless law enforcement throughout the world. And Captain?
And don't forget, you can view this on YouTube.
Till next time, be safe.
Adios.
Thank you.
Hello
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.